Let's talk about the freshmen.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We've graded the transfers, we've graded the returners, and now it's time to grade the freshmen. Hello, everyone. I'm Jackson Holzer. This is Locked On Syracuse, and thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, what grade would you give Syracuse basketball's 2024-25 freshman class? For those that need a refresher, there were 3 people in Syracuse's freshman class this season. You had Donnie Freeman, a consensus 5-star recruit and the highest ranked Syracuse basketball recruit since Carmelo Anthony in 2002. You also had Choppa Moore, who was a consensus 4-star recruit. And you also had Petar Majstorovic, who didn't commit to Syracuse until August, right before the season started. There were over 350 votes on this week's Poll Friday, and over 50% of you all gave the freshman class a C grade. And I agree with the majority. I would also give this year's freshman class a C. And I think when you compare the freshman class based on preseason expectations, they perform the best compared to the returning players and the transfer portal players. Let's start off talking about the one who had a huge spotlight on him heading into the season, and that's Donnie Freeman. Donnie Freeman averaged 13 points a game and 8 rebounds a game on 50% shooting, 33% from the three-point line, and 80% from the free throw line. He also had an Evan Maya defensive rating of 0.39. The issue with Donnie Freeman, of course, is this. He only played in 14 games. His last game occurred on January 4th against Florida State. He did not see the floor the rest of the way. He got a procedure done on his lower body, and hopefully he is going to be healthy wherever he ends up next season. I am not going to penalize Donnie Freeman for getting injured. It happens. It's bad luck. So as far as a grade while he was playing, I think he deserves a B+. You think that's too high? You think that's too low? Or maybe you think that's just right. Comment in the comment section below your grade for Donnie Freeman this season. If I told you before the year, and I get that Donnie Freeman had sky-high expectations, but if I told you before the year that he would average 13 points and 8 rebounds on 50% shooting, 33% from the three-point line, and 80% from the free throw line, I think most of you all would have taken that slash line. Another issue with Donnie Freeman is that the team was not good. It wasn't good, and he simply was not good enough to be able to carry the team. I also do think that we saw the floor of Donnie Freeman. I think he certainly could improve on defense. I think that he can become a little bit more polished on offense as far as his shooting. But if he decided to stay, all things being equal, the price lines up, he decides that he wants to stay with Syracuse another season, I think most, if not all of us, should feel thrilled if he were to return to Syracuse next year. Do you want him back another season? Comment in the comment section below. Now, coming up, there were 2 other players in the freshman class, Choppa Moore and Petar Majstorovic. So we'll talk about them next here on Locked On Syracuse. We're all about the stats because numbers don't lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada PRO-4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team, plus the gear, wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada PRO-4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada PRO-4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro-4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. On this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, what grade would you give Syracuse basketball's 2024-25 freshman class? The majority of you all gave it a C, and I am in agreement with the majority. As far as individuals, I gave Donnie Freeman a B+, and now let's get to the other two players in the freshman class, starting off with Elijah Choppa Moore. Choppa Moore averaged 5 points a game this season on 32% three-point shooting. He had an Evan Maya defensive rating of 0.96. That was the highest on the team, but like I said on yesterday's podcast, this was not a good defensive team for Syracuse this season, one of the worst in the ACC, and that rating of 0.96, that would have been the fifth highest on the team last year. I'm going to be a little harsh on Elijah Choppa Moore. This was a consensus four-star recruit. He was hyped up as being one of the best perimeter shooters in the entire high school class, and only 32% from three-point land. I'm going to give him a D+ for the year. And he flashed early on this season. He had a couple of games in late November, early December, where he looked like one of Syracuse's best players. He had 19 points against Cornell. He had 24 points at Tennessee. And then a few games later, he has 16 against Maryland. Think about those two blowouts in the non-con against Tennessee and Maryland. He was one of the only bright spots on Syracuse. However, Choppa was really inconsistent in his true freshman season. He had a 6-game stretch that started in late December and ended up going into January, where he went 6 consecutive games without scoring a single point. That's right, a 6-game stretch where he did not score a point. He had zeros across the board. Like Donnie Freeman, he also ended the year hurt. His last game came on February 15th against North Carolina. I'm not penalizing him for getting injured. Again, it's bad luck. It's part of the sport, and I hope that he is fresh and ready to go wherever he ends up next season. And like I said on yesterday's podcast, if he comes back, cool. If he doesn't come back, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Hopefully, J.J. Starling returns. You got Kyan Anthony coming in, and you could probably upgrade on Choppa Moore in the offseason as far as the transfer portal. And finally, you got Petar Majstorovic, who averaged 3 points a game this season, 3 rebounds a game, and he also had an Evan Maya defensive rating of 0.87. I believe that was second highest on the team this season. And this was the toughest grade to hand out. And the reason why it was so tough to hand out is because I don't know about you all, but I had little to no expectations for Petar Majstorovic this season. When he was on the floor, and he was on the floor for much more than I thought he was going to be, he was the guy that displayed the most energy and the most effort on the entire team. And oftentimes, it was both teams. He's diving for loose balls, keeping offensive possessions alive with rebounds. He was all over the place. He's like a rugrat. But in terms of ability, he's got a long way to go. We know what type of player Petar Majstorovic is, right? He's an energy and effort, hustle type player. But as far as his offensive game, what is he particularly good at? Is he someone that's going to beat you off the dribble? Is he a spot-up shooter? Is he a post-up player, perhaps? I don't know if we saw much of an offensive game for Petar Majstorovic this season. Now, that being said, he's got an entire offseason to build on what he did this season. He also shot 40% from three-point this year, but that was only in 12 total three-point attempts. So that's a very small sample. Hopefully he can take more next year and make it at a pretty similar rate. 40% is certainly really high. I'm going to throw my arms up in the air with this one because I don't really know what to give him. I'll give him a C. I feel like you can't really go much higher than that because he averaged 3 points and 3 rebounds a game. But you can't really go much lower than that, in my opinion, because he didn't really have many expectations. And like I said, his energy, his effort, and the heart that he showed, I wish that every player played with the energy and effort that he did. So I believe that is it regarding this freshman class. Overall, I would give the class a C. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. As far as what is coming up on the podcast in the future, well, it's the off season, so there will not be a post-game reaction podcast on Saturday. But as far as future podcast plans, I do have some stuff that I want to get to. Reacting to Adrian Autry's final press conference. That should be fascinating. Off-season questions that need to be answered. Off-season needs. What do the Orange need to attack in the transfer portal, which is coming up pretty soon? And plus, I'll try to get on some national insiders to talk about Syracuse basketball throughout the offseason. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. And for your second listen, you can check out the Locked On College Basketball podcast with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. And March is here, so be the most informed college basketball fan throughout the madness. You can find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse so this channel can grow and reach all Syracuse Orange fans. I will see you all again soon.